Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning everyone. And I'm Zaleha. I'm a professor of sustainability at Othman Yeop Business School, Universiti Utara Malaysia. So thank you very much, Ahmad, for giving me this opportunity. I'm happy to share my experience and also my passion. My passion is on I teach research method, I teach sustainability, forensic accounting, because that's my area. My area of interest in research is basically in corporate governance, ethics, sustainability. Mostly I did my research in qualitative, and I also teach qualitative research method and also data analysis in regards to qualitative. I have been working with Universiti Utara Malaysia for more than 20 years towards my retirement, but I enjoy research. I enjoy research simply because I do a kind of research which is very interesting. I have, as I mentioned earlier, my passion is qualitative. So because I do a lot of research in qualitative, I never get bored. It's just encouraging me to do more and more and more. Why? Because qualitative is a research that look at social reality, and you understand what is going on out there. So you're not looking at the past, you are looking at the present. So you bring in the present to the future. So that's what my belief is qualitative research is all about. And it is an inquiry based, because qualitative is designed for a study that inquire about why and how. So it's very, allow me to briefly highlight research. Research is, when you want to seek knowledge or you want to improve things. So you do research because you want to ask. That's inquiry, regardless of whether quantitative or qualitative is inquiry. But the nature of the inquiry is different. The nature of the inquiry based on the philosophy that you adopt. So the philosophy will will direct you towards what method you use. So in my case, my research normally comes from the worldview of subjectivity. That means I'm looking into the ontology of looking at things from multiple realities, different multiple realities, not single focus. I'm looking at multiple orientations of inquiry. And the theory that I adopt, which normally people call epistemology, is looking into interpretivist. So what I do in my research is that I asked, there's a lot of human relations, there's a lot of interactions. That's why we call it interactionist. And we interpret what we found. So therefore it becomes knowledge of theory of knowledge. So then only comes the methodology part, which is qualitative. So here I think, Ahmad, you want to hear about my qualitative more than the
how to build a good research. We learned from you this in 3 days, how to build a good research. We heard about chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 3. Just tell us how to go through step by
each step. Quality of research very important, especially when you are in your doctoral stage. Your doctorate, if you are in your doctoral program, the quality matters a lot, because we want to be qualified as scientific. Therefore quality of research is very much looking at thoroughness, thickness, richness of the data, the information. So that therefore the quality comes in. So in order to get a good quality research, you have to have a good and systematic process of doing that research. So systematic process, as what Glaser used to say, every research must come with systematic process. That means you have to know from the very beginning to the end, and the topic you chose, and then how you address the issue, how you deliver the literature, connect it with the chapter 1. So basically research is looking into 3 perspectives. It's like a pyramid. You have theoretical, you have technical, and you have analytical. So what we went through in class, because we are looking into delivering students able to do proposal. That is our objective for the your applied business methodology class, is looking into at the end of the course to then be able to produce a proposal. That's why we stop at chapter 3. But if you continue your research, your dissertation, you have to look into the analytical part. So we look at the theoretical and the technical. That's why we stop, because our intention is to produce that proposal. So proposal contain 3 chapters, yeah. Chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. I don't like to call it chapter 1, 2 and 3, but that is the standard we use to produce proposal, right? But when you are a researcher, and especially when you are a scholar, you know, it's best if you can use the jargon that a researcher should use, like a scholar should use. So the jargon would be theoretical aspect of research, technical aspect of research, and analytical aspect of research. So chapter 1, chapter 2, normally we are looking into the theoretical aspect of research. You know, how you argue theoretically, how you bring in your argument, you bring in your justification of doing the research. So normally you can see this in chapter 1, chapter 2. Then you go to the technical, which is the methodology section, which is chapter 3. But if you carry on your research, you will go to the part where it is known as analytical. So normally it comes in chapter analysis and chapter discussion. So that is the analytical part, which is so therefore these 3 components will sum up to have to be a quality research.
But as we learned from you, you have to start with the introduction and the background. And the background, this is how to sell our idea.
Yes, most important topic. Yeah. So how to get a good topic? Good topic, like in my case, because I am a qualitative researcher, I always look at 2 things. Yeah. One is looking for the topic where at your observation. You do your observation. That means you're looking at the phenomena. So that means you go out there, you go to the social reality. That means the world out there. You observe. You observe what is the phenomena. That means what is the event? What are the events happening occurred that need research? And then you have another way, which is looking at literature review. So these 2 sources of information will give you the topic. So then you see, okay, which part is the topic that interests you. Therefore, you have to look at that area, the focus. So when you focus on certain concept, that concept is actually your area of research. So that concept will bring you your problem. So in chapter 1, the most important part of it, definitely, how you bring in yourself in chapter 1. So when you bring in yourself, you have to integrate the ontology, epistemology, methodology, rhetorical, and axiology. So these are the philosophical assumptions that you must have in your chapter 1 itself. Yeah. So you already have a topic. Now you go to chapter 1. The intention. What is the intention of chapter 1? Why chapter 1 is chapter 1? Chapter 1 is you want to sell your idea. You want to convince reader that, I'm not talking rubbish. This is relevant. This is useful. This topic is an issue, is a problem that needs solving. So that's the idea. So how you address that? Definitely the component consists of research issue, problem statement, research question, research objective. Yeah. But again, each part has to be convincing. So you have to sell your idea. How to be convincing? Definitely the words you use. As I said just now, the 5 philosophy. I can talk about philosophy for hours. But you have to understand, chapter 1 has to integrate that philosophy, all of it. So if you are looking into topic where it's not known, or limited knowledge, or very few studies already exist, or something you need to explore because nobody has explored it, then definitely you are looking to something which is subjective, uncertain. So because of this characteristic, then definitely that nature, that that aim must be there. That means in your research issue, after you look at the social reality, you bring in issue, right? So what is it about this topic that I bring in become an issue to the nation, or what is the implication? So in chapter 1, you have to have that kind of thing, your research issue and implication. What is the issue that I bring in with this topic that I want to study? So address that research issue. While you're addressing, use words that is persuasive. This is academic writing. You have to integrate research method and academic writing when you write. You have to use persuasive words. You have to use words that is the statistic, sources that is relevant, useful, to highlight that convincing effect, the wow factor. So the relevancy, the usefulness, why I need to do this research, something like that. The question that you got to ask yourself before you write is, how important is my research? What is the implication of my research? What are the impacts of Malaysia to the nation, to the society? So that will direct you to write a good research issue. Then you go to problem statement. For me, problem statement is very, very important. You want to highlight the problem. So the problem must be together with your topic. That is your focus. So what is the problem there that needs solution? So definitely, your observation just now will be very handy, because when you observe, you already did the pre-understanding of that issue. So when you highlight the problem, I use a very simple formula. I said, okay, what is the desired stage of your concept? What is the desired stage of your topic? For example, if you say about corporate governance, okay, what is the desired stage of corporate governance? For me, I said, okay, corporate governance is supposed to be guiding companies towards good behavior. So what is the actual stage now? So the actual stage means something not being desired, right? Like, okay, poor corporate governance among companies. So that gives you the gap. Why corporate governance supposed to help companies be better, but now is the opposite side. So that's the problem. That's how you write your problem statement in a simple way. Desired stage, actual stage. And then next, you go to the literature. You go to the literature, find out whether what people have done. Have people done the research, or there's no research in this area? So that filled up that gap. Why chapter 2? Because chapter 2 will tell you the earlier studies, what have been done and what have not been done. So you want to add to the contribution, you want to contribute to the knowledge. So definitely you are looking into something new, something that you want to add to the gap. So there is a formula. Desired stage, actual stage, look at literature to see whether people have done it or not. If people don't have, never been explored, or limited exploration, or you can argue from the methodology perspective, or you can argue from the theoretical perspective, bring it in. Say, okay, now people don't have, not many people done it, there's ambiguity, there's a mixed result, there's a need to be discovered, explore. You say, therefore, this is my purpose of study. And that close your problem statement.
As we learned, literature should be from academic.
Yes.
Not from newspaper or from magazine. Should be from academic
yes.
issues. Yes.
True. Research, when you bring in your background, you can add a theoretical aspect. That means empirical research, where you can get from literature review. You can also add statistic or anything that you find useful and relevant for your the point that you want to bring up. But then in the problem statement is theoretical, because you must understand you're doing empirical studies. So when you bring empirical study, you need scientific proof. So your scientific proofs definitely from the literature, the one that acceptable in the world of academic. That means it has that scientific application and procedures that the researcher has used. So that one is supposed to be in problem statement. You have to add in your research issue, but in problem statement solely on the empirical proof data. information. So you cannot just say, oh, problem statement, you bring in newspaper, you bring in other the validity of that data will be very low. So my worries is that when you bring in other sources which is not empirically proven, then people can question. For example, examiner or other reader can question, how relevant is this research, because you are not getting it from scientific perspective. So therefore I'm very strict. I say problem statement must come from theoretical argument. That means must come from your theoretical grounding, which is chapter 2 definitely.
And in qual there is no hypothesis. It should be data from anywhere and and from anyone to collect data just to help to bring my idea or my objectives.
That one would be under the chapter 3 methodology. So after you find, after you design your problem statement, the next step will be research question. So when you develop your research question, people who develop their research question inquiry by asking why and how, definitely giving reader idea that they don't know. If you don't know directions, you don't give directions like, what is the relationship, you're not making assumption. So you open it. When you open, you ask why this thing happened and how this thing happened. That means you are giving the reader something that you don't know and you want to find out. That means you are giving a reader the idea that, look, I'm not going to make any assumption. I'm going to rely on the social reality to give me the assumption. So that's why when your inquiry is looking at why and how, it's more of looking into knowledge that seek process understanding, seek something unexplored. So therefore, your objective must be to seek that exploration. So you cannot be like quantitative. Quantitative is a study where you're already making assumption earlier on. That means your theoretical explanation grounding is already directing you towards certain theory that you're going to adopt, and then you're going to make assumption of that theory. So the theory is already there. You are controlling that environment. So that's why your research question is very much positivist. You are making assumption. So you are directing that research question. Whereas qualitative people, they don't direct. They just leave it to the floor. So they open it. So because the world is uncertain, I'm not making an assumption. I'm leave it to the respondent. So when you created that kind of chapter 1, I reinstate. Chapter 1 must be background, problem statement, research question, research objective. That will direct you towards chapter 3. So chapter 3 is all about methodology. So chapter 1 is you convince reader of why I want to do this research. Why is it so important? What is lacking in the present, in the existing knowledge that I want to add? But chapter 3 is telling others, look, how are you going to do it? So it's directing you towards qualitative paradigm. So therefore, in chapter 3, you are telling people, look, this is how I'm going to proceed in order to get the data to answer my research question. So it's going back to research chapter 1 again. So the idea is actually to tell people a systematic process and procedures of doing that research in order to support your inquiry. So what you do normally, we start with methodology. Methodology is the third assumptions in philosophy. That's the reason I say research question will decide which methodology you are going to adopt. So not you come with the methodology. That chapter 1, how you write, how you convince people, what is your ontology, what is your epistemology, that what is the research question that you have designed, that will direct towards whether you are quanti or quali. So if you are qualitative, then definitely characteristic must be there. That means I'm looking at chapter 1, my characteristic is process seeking, very much oriented towards seeking unexplored things, very much looking into uncertainty. That's why I want to discover. So that is the methodology part. But the uniqueness between quanti and quali is that we have one more element in the methodology chapter, which not present in the quantitative research. We have method. So there's a difference between methodology and method. Method is approach. What approach you're going to use to get this information. Methodology is the paradigm. It's bigger paradigm. What is it that this philosophy bringing me towards? The characteristic of the philosophy. That means the highway that you're going to follow. So now you know already. Okay, my highway is qualitative, and then now I'm going to tell you what approach. This is the most wonderful thing about qualitative, because it tells you the approach, and the approach is custom made. It's custom made. If you say that, well, I want to understand process, then there's approach called case study that you can adopt to understand the process. It's already designed, developed already by researcher. The older the researcher, the earlier researcher, already designed for you. Okay, if you want to understand, you use case study. That's why I say qualitative is unique, because it is custom made, not like quanti. Quanti you can just go do survey or secondary data, but we have that additional element, which is method. So if you say, okay, I'm going to look, my research question is seeking knowledge about describing people's experience, then case study not suitable. Phenomenological is suitable, because the phenomenological is designed for researcher that seeking and wanting to describe about people's experience. So if you say, okay, I want to explore because this topic never been explored, and I want to develop theory. So grounded theory is best, because grounded theory is designed as exploration approach in order to produce a theory. So there's different technique, different approach. So your research question will determine that. So actually, qualitative researcher, you are the instrument. You are the one direct what you want. That's the freedom and the privilege of qualitative researcher. Unlike quanti is directed by literature review. For us, we come with what we want to know. So if you want to know process, you look at case study. If you want to know describe experience, you look at phenomenological. If you want to explore and build theory, you look at grounded. If you want to learn about culture, you are looking into ethnography. There are many methods, but these are the common and frequent methods, the classical methods that I like to introduce to students. But after that, you have so many methods. So that's why it's custom made already to what you want. It's already there. You just need to find the guru and follow the process.
This is methodology.
This is method. This is method. Yeah. Methodology, qualitative. Qualitative is the paradigm. You tell people, okay, my characteristic is this. So my methodology is qualitative. But after that, people will say, okay, what approach you're going to get your inquiry answered. So that's where the method comes in. Yeah. In quanti, we don't have that. We have quantitative paradigm, and then we go to survey or secondary data. But for us, we have another layer, which is method, before we reach that data collection method. Yeah.
And also we learn to be concentrated. If I'm qual, don't confuse, and then sometimes qual in the research and sometimes quant. It should be in one, or start with qual and end by quant.
You can, as a researcher, you can do both. That means you are looking into two philosophy assumptions. You are adopting your inquiry is adopting this objective and the subjective. Your inquiry is looking into positivist and also interpretivist together. That's I will say that if you adopt that, then you are actually inductor or deductor. Yeah.
In one research it can.
In one research you can be, but it takes longer time. It takes longer period of time, because you have to complete quanti first and then quali, or quali first, quanti, vice versa. But you have to remember that you have to fulfill the philosophy. That's why ontology, epistemology is very important. How do you direct the research question which is connected with your ontology and epistemology? Yeah, if you say, okay, I want to do quantitative, but then I'm putting one research question and I will take interview as a mechanism to answer this research question. That means data collection, I'm going to do interview in order to answer research question. To me is, and you say, oh, I'm a qualitative. To me it's not. Yeah, it's not qualitative. You cannot just take interview and say that it is qualitative. Because I think you learn in class, when you want to do qualitative, there's method. That's not I explained. There's method. That method is very important. That determines your house. That determines your house. I know I'm qualitative, but then why it is my house? My house is case study. My house is phenomenological. So it go back to your inquiry. So if you say interview, that is not a method. That is data collection method. So a lot of people confuse. They say, oh, I'm actually mixed method. I'm doing quantitative, but then I put one research question, and that research question requires me to do interview, therefore I am qualitative because I did interview. So to me, I've been taught by my supervisor that go back and look at the way you write your chapter 1. Look at your inquiry. Does inquiry consist of both objecto and subjecto? If it's not, if it's very much objecto and very positivist, you are making assumption. Adding information using interview does not qualify you to be qualitative researcher, because you have not met the philosophy assumption. The subjectivity, the interpretivist is not there. Interview is just technique used to get data collection. So we normally, after we know our method, then we say, okay, now I'm using case study. Now, what data collection method best for me to use? So for qualitative, we have the privilege to take, because we have multiple realities, we can take anything and everything that support our research inquiry. So if you figure that, oh, I need more than one, that's wonderful. That's increase your validity. So data collection method is open, anything and everything. That means you can use survey, you can use interview at the same time, you can use document, artifact, anything that you find useful. Social media. But unlike Conti, they just stick to single focus. If I use survey, I will take survey because their axiology is value bias. Yeah, ours is value laden. We have the privilege to use the multiple realities in order to get rich data. So the higher the validity, the richer the data, the more quality the research will be in qualitative perspective.
But collecting any data from anyone, but ethics, it's very important.
Yes. Qualitative researcher holds ethics very dearly. Very important for a qualitative researcher to know what are the ethical considerations takes place from the very beginning, from the choosing of topics, from delivering the topics, from getting the data, from meeting the researcher and the research, from conducting the research. So because you are accountable for it, and data is your responsibility. Yeah, so you're supposed to answer with integrity. That's why our validity, we have two components, triangulation and also trustworthiness. Why we did not call like quantitative call, reliability. We have our criteria, but we call triangulation and trustworthiness. So trustworthiness means you as a researcher must be trusted by your person that you research on, or situation or environment that research on. So integrity is very, very demanding required in qualitative research. So most important, you must show the reader that this is how I safeguard the information. This is how I safeguard my participants. This is how I look after the confidentiality, because you are interacting with people, individual or animal, does not matter, but actually it takes their privacy. It takes, there are certain things that their human rights. So you have to consider that because you are in the setting. You are insider. You are in the setting. You are insider. So they trust you. There's human interactions. So the philosophy again jump in here. Very important for you to uphold that integrity.
Returning back to the problem statement, when you asked me what you would like to have in research, I told him I need to make inflation about marketing, about finance. He told me try to narrow your problem statement.
Yeah. As a researcher, you cannot solve the world's problem. You have to look at small problem and focus on that problem. So what we, especially particularly a qualitative perspective. Qualitative is designed for problem that within your scope, that you be able to do it, because there's a lot of dependency on the your subject. Yeah. So if you take, okay, I'm going to do inflations in marketing, even for research for that matter is too large. You look at marketing, okay, what aspect of marketing I will ask. Then you say I'm going to look at finance at the same time. So you are having too many theories. So how can a human being, do one research connecting marketing theory, connecting this theory, that theory is very difficult for you. The focus is not there. The scope is not there. Yeah. So you have too many things. It become broad, then it become very shallow. So what we want is you give us the problem. The problem is there. You give us the solution. So the solution must, direct towards that problem. So it's better for you to go. For example, if you look at inflations in finance, I will ask you which part of finance. So if you narrow down, okay, I'm looking into Islamic finance. So you already narrow down to Islamic finance. Then I will ask you, what scope are you looking into? I'm looking into Islamic finance from the banking perspective. So it's easier for you to give the, to conduct your research. Easier for you to make hypotheses. Easier for you to get the data. So if you have too many things, how do you want to get the data? So the data becomes shallow because as human being you cannot complete unless you have a big group. You have a larger group, and then that group you divide again. You are looking into group with smaller scope. Yeah, you cannot have one group looking at many scope. So you can have a very large topic, but again you must develop little research question in order to answer each group inquiry. Then you can sum up the whole research. That's why again you are looking into narrow perspective of topics.
As I mentioned, we learned in MBA, don't mention I, don't mention we in our project. But you said that in Qual, no, it should mention this is I, do this.
In qualitative, as I mentioned earlier, we are the instrument. Very important to know that we are the instrument, not the mechanism, not the tools, not the SPSS or things like that. We are the instrument. So we belong in the field. We are in the setting. We have ownership. We have ownership of the information. We have ownership of the rapport with the researcher and the research. So is the use of I and we is allowed in our rhetorical assumption. So this is the fifth assumption in philosophy of doing research. So the I is normally to give reader know that my ontology is actually looking into subjective. So my theory of knowledge is interpretivist, and I am interpreting it. So I is allowed. Why? Because the rhetorical assumptions say use this language to connect with your theory of knowledge. I get that theory of knowledge. I go to the field. So this one is my accountability, my ownership. So whatever data I produce is my accountability and responsibility. I am the person in charge. I am doing it. I'm not exterior from the setting. I am in the setting. So that's why we are allowed. Basically, it's actually allowed because we have that rhetorical assumption which say that your research belong to you and you are the instrument of the research. So I, therefore, is very prominent, or we use the first name basis.
From your experience, how to keep our passion? We can start in the beginning, and then after, especially it maybe take 2 years, 3 years to finalize our
research.
So how to keep this passion till the end of the...
Very important for you to know that do something that you like. You have to choose research topic that you like most. Yeah, something that you want inside you to fulfill. Yeah, that means if you look at topic that is not your liking, then probably halfway when you have challenges you will stop. So we don't want that. We want to do something where it become a pushing factor for us. So when you have that, number one, the passion will actually is a driver for you to complete your study. And another thing, for me, qualitative, why I indulge in qualitative? Because qualitative is a study where it's never boring. You get new idea. You expect the unexpected. That is qualitative. Expect the unexpected. So there's always something new. There's always knowledge out there. Something fresh, something attractive out there, because you're talking to people. You get more info. You get fresh story. You get social reality. So it will never keep you bored, because after interview we have another interview, and other people will tell you some different story. It's just like a story. You are building mini stories to make to do the interpretation. So the mini story, there are similarities, but that there are differences. So it's not monotonous. So you cannot get bored. I've never heard anyone doing qualitative get bored, because it's constantly a new thing that you discover. Yeah. So it's on the go all the time. You do your research question, you do your data collection, you come back, you do analysis, then you go back again to do that. So it's a cycle. It's just a cycle. It's not like focusing on one.
This means if I work with group, or if what I have achieved, discuss it with another one about what I have found, or just keep till the end.
Yes, it's that's why they call it theory of knowledge is interactions or interpretivist. You sometimes you use inter-rater or intra-rater. Inter-rater and intra-rater means, if you do research in a group, then you discuss. So every data collection you come back, you discuss, okay, what do I find? What is the similarity? What is the differences? What are the differences between me and you? What do you find? What do I find? So sometimes you find different things with different people. And then you interview different people. That will be exciting for you, right? If in a group, but then if you're individual, then if you do solo research, then again you have to talk to yourself. So as if like you have to talk to yourself as if like you are in a group as well, but you are doing it solo. But still very important for you to come back, do data collection and think, and then write, and then draw, and then go back to data collection again, but you are doing it alone. But if you use other people in a group, your validity will be high, because there's inter-rater and intra-rater. So inter-rater, intra-rater is a form of validity that you can use to support your analysis and your data.
From your experience also, what stage is most frustrating? You come in the journey, and then which point you can find frustrated? What you can do if you feel frustrated at any point of your journey?
Yeah, definitely. I've done many research. Yeah, and my research topics are very interesting as well, because I do research on corruption. I do research on sustainability. Those are challenging topics, very sensitive topics. There are challenges. Looking at topic is easy. You go, you do observation, you come, you look at literature. So that's settled, because you don't you don't connect with people. You just do your observation, you ask pre-understanding information, then you come back, you look at literature. But when the challenging part is the data collection, because qualitative research, as I said, epistemology is theory of knowledge, interpretivist, that means you have to connect with the setting. whatever in the setting. If there's human in the setting, you have to connect with human. If animal in the setting, you have to connect with animal. If artifact in the setting, like Egypt, archaeology, you have to connect with those things. So, like, if you depend on others, that means there's external factor influence your challenge. So if they don't want to be interviewed, then you have to think of other people. Then you have to design who are the best person to speak to. And if you you cannot find people, that they will delay your research. So the data collection is the most challenging part. But if you can tackle that, there are ways. That's why before you go data collection, you have to know the technique of interview, technique of selection of samples, technique of what if I cannot get this, what is the alternative. So it's a constant mind working. Your mind must work all the time, because if you cannot, what is the plan B if you cannot fulfill plan A? So what is the alternative scientifically scientifically considered? You have to consider the scientific, what is the plan A, plan B. So that is the most challenging, to get the data, because you have to depend on the external factor, regardless whether it's human or animal or artifact. Still there's connection with other factors. If you are doing it alone, like Quanti, they don't relate, they just send survey and then the survey can come. It's just the numbers that they're getting. But for us, if you cannot get interview, if in case your research requires interviews, there's no data. So how are you going to analyze when there's no data? So that's the most challenging part. But the most interesting part is the analysis. I love it. Analysis is, you're looking at raw data, the words, you are representing the voice of the participant. So when you look at the voice of the participant, the reflection of you in the setting will connect that. So that is beautiful. Where you find that this interaction between you and the participant, the researcher and the researched, and how you build up the team, how do you create the variable. So you're the explorer, you are the one creator, you create those things. So that's wonderful.
Thank you, Prof, for your time.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate if you advise someone like me who going to start, and the others who going to start, how to be passionate, how to complete.
Everything that you do, it must start with passion. So you have to find you have to find something that push you. You cannot, especially when I find that when people lack reading, they find that research is tough. But then when you read, that's why in research normally people look at literature first. They read, they understand the concept, and then they have that eagerness and the urge to know more. So that actually motivates you to do things, to do and do more. And for me, I love it because what motivates me always, what motivates me is the inquisitive mind. You have to have that inquisitive mind. That means I want to know. So that actually push you, even if you lazy, you don't have mood, but I want to know. So the urgency, the urge to know will actually push you to start little bit. Never stop. You have to start. You have to find. I cannot, because when I did my PhD, I got 3 kids, schooling, small kids, attending schools and all the exams. I have no time, so I cannot schedule myself 9 to 5 I must study. So I studied based on flexibility. So what I do is that I organize myself according to what my capability. That means if I cannot study this week, it's okay, but at least I have journal in the hand to keep reminding me, I am doing my PhD. So in the car while waiting for them tuition, I will read little bit just to give me the motivation. So sometimes I wake up in the wee hour in the morning, and read because they were sleeping. So I steal time, but I don't lack more than 2 weeks, because you lack more than 2 weeks, you will be demotivated. So, but I always have things in my hand just to remind me. So like journals is always in my hand, notebook is always in my hand. So when I think, a notebook is very important, especially when you do qualitative research. I always have a pen and notebook. Everything, now you have iPhone, easier. Everything I remember. So my mind never stop thinking. So you have to think. You look at things, you have to think. So when you think and you start jotting down, so that is actually motivates you to do your research. So if you let go everything, then very difficult for you to come back. But most important, the inquisitive mind and the passion must be there to be a good researcher. Yeah. So good luck, Ahmed. I really hope you can complete and enjoy doing research.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.